All right, guys, I'm gonna make a start now. So as Amanda said, this is just a talk on our Titan Info handbooks. Now, I'm not going to take up too much of your time on this one, but it's something that if you were at the October time trials last year, you'd have been given a copy of. I'm going to briefly run through it. However, I've altered it and updated it and kind of changed a few things on there. And kind of the idea is that going forward, I'll keep kind of making alterations, adding bits and bobs to it, and it'll be like a little library. So if you have any questions or any immediate things you need to get hold of in terms of understanding something, hopefully it will be in this kind of little booklet of knowledge for you. So I'll make a start. Let me screen share it. Okay, so I've changed it slightly. Now I would put it in slideshow mode, but it tends to stop the screen share for whatever reason. So I'm going to leave it in this mode as it is now. Can I make it a little bit bigger maybe? Okay, that should do. So I've changed it up a little bit. I've kind of separated it into 4 separate categories: being a Titan, nutrition, training, and racing. Okay, so I've split it into 4 areas. And like I said, over time, I want to keep adding to these things. And if you have any questions on, nutrition, or any questions on kind of our training models or philosophies, hopefully, in time we'll keep adding, and there'll be more and more stuff for you to have on here. So we start off. This one's not a new one. So being a Titan, these are kind of our core things that we believe are super important to be within the team. So, team spirit, trust, determined, competitive, professionalism, respect, resilience. Okay, so these are some of the things I think are very important and kind of what being a Titan is and what we hold dear. All right. So next one, mindset of a Titan. Be prepared to race anyone, anywhere, anytime. Okay, every day is day one. If you've been at one of our major competitions that lasts 3, 4, 5 days, something like nationals where it goes on for 5 days, and if you're doing British and home, that's 2 weeks kind of straight. Every day is day one. So what we mean by that is when you turn up on day one, you feel super, pumped, you're ready to go, you're raring, and you swim fast. But then as the meet goes through, some people start, fading, getting a little bit lethargic. And so what we mean by every day is day one is that you're prepared to stand up and race day 5 the same way you are on day 1. Okay. Just a couple of bits. Talk yourself up for anything. A positive mindset can achieve the unthinkable. Okay. If you're going into a race with a poor attitude, or you're going into a race negative, not thinking you're going to win, you're not going to win. All right. You have to go into it believing that you can win, regardless of who you're racing or how old they are or how fast they go. It doesn't matter. All right. Have you got a fixed or growth mindset? So this is something we touched on when we did the OADF talk about a growth mindset and opening yourself up for challenges, being prepared to take on new information, do things differently. So it's super important that you have a growth mindset when it comes to performance swimming, because you need to be prepared to challenge your body in new and different ways for it to continue to improve and get better. What can you do to focus on the small details to achieve the big picture? So in a race, we all know doing 6, 7 fast underwater kicks is going to be more beneficial to 2. But that's not just going to happen by chance. It's, what do we have to do in training? What are the small details we do in training which are going to lead to that end success? Okay, so this is a new one. So confidence is key. So confidence is real and can help make a tangible, positive improvement in racing. Confidence can be improved by effective preparation, and confidence equals past experiences plus the belief you can cope with new challenges. Okay, so that last line, the confidence equals past experiences plus belief you can cope with new challenges. Some of the things that would fall under past experiences would be, great times that you've swam at meets, training sets that you've done a really good job on, times where you've swum a PB in that event, and times you swam for a tough race. Okay, so if you know, for example, you've done a really great block of training leading into a competition, you're naturally going to be more confident than if maybe you've had 3 weeks out or whatever it is. Okay, so great times that you swam in meets, or generally speaking, if you've done a really good job at that same pool before, you're going into a bit more confident. So past experiences, and then coping with new challenges. Okay, you guys are probably about as good as they get when it comes to coping with new challenges. Corona is never a thing prior. It's something that Alan, Amanda never had to deal with when we were younger. And so for you guys, coping with new challenges is kind of your strength right now. Some of the examples, things that you've done before, new things that you've done before, a first day at a new school, first day at a new club, first day back after an injury. Okay, and most of you have done kind of a checklist of all of these, in that you've done new things before and you've dealt with it and you've managed to overcome it. And so going into maybe a European Juniors for the first time, it's just another example of a new challenge that you can cope with. Okay, so here you've coped with many new things. Racing isn't you. Okay, coping with challenges isn't you. Is it going to take me to my next slide, or do I have to click it? There we go. So what does confidence look like? Okay, so it's something that we'll kind of talk to you about, certainly at a national level, is about how you approach the blocks, particularly for a final. Okay, so how you walk up in a final can be the make or break. And if your competition sees weakness in your confidence, in your approach, and your walk up to the block in a final, they're gonna have already won the race. Okay, so head up, stand tall, smile, maintain eye contact, and positive self-talk. All these things kind of show or exude confidence. You may be inside feeling quite nervous, but if you got your head up, stand tall, you smile, you maintain eye contact, and you pump yourself up, positive self-talk, you're gonna have that underlying confidence, whether you feel it or not. Okay, and these are some great athletes here who have all got a high level of confidence. Usain Bolt is a great example down here. Before when he used to run, he would always, exude a level of confidence that no one else did. He was very chill. He would just talk to the people who were holding his clothes. He'd pose for the cameras. He did a lot of things where, he showed how confident he was. Okay, so we're moving on to our nutrition now, and I've changed our nutrition bit up a bit, so it's a little bit new. So eating through the week. Okay, there's 3 R's of nutrition. There's refuel, repair, and rehydrate. All right, so refuel is replacing the carbohydrate energy reserves which were depleted from training. Repair, begin the process of repairing the muscle tissue that was damaged during training. So when you're actually swimming and or in the gym and working hard, your muscles are actually breaking down. They're not growing, they're breaking down. And it's the repair part which makes them grow back bigger than what they were before. Okay, which is why you get fatigue, you get tired, it's your muscles breaking down. And then rehydrate, very important, replace lost fluids that were lost from sweating training. You might not feel like you're sweating in swimming, but you are. You're actually sweating quite a lot, but I'll try not to let you think of that one too much. Okay, so refuel. There's a little bit of a kind of a mathematic bit here, and the older ones may understand it a bit more, but effectively up to 1.2 grams per kilogram, that's kilogram of body weight. So for example, if you weigh 50 kilograms, it's 1.2 grams times 50, which will get how many carbohydrates you need in your first hour after exercise. All right, and there's a little chart down here. So 60 grams, if you're 60 kilos, 72. So obviously the heavier you are, the bigger you are, the more carbohydrates you're going to need. And these are some fantastic examples of some really good quality, healthy carbohydrates. And again, the kind of snacky type things, so you can have them after exercise. It's not like, you're finishing training and then you've got to go home, make yourself dinner, and then by the time you're eating dinner, it's past that hour after training. these are really good kind of quick fire options that you can have straight after training to refuel. All right. The more distance you do, and the more aerobic training you do, and length of session will determine if this needs to go up or down. You may find that, you know, these big male sprinters don't need as much carbohydrates and will need more of the protein, whereas someone who's a, you know, a middle distance athlete will need more carbohydrates and slightly less protein. So you don't need to follow this 100% exactly. It tends to be, you know, us at Titans, we are a middle distance IM free program in general, and that's kind of the way we train. So you will need to have a pretty all-round balanced diet here. It's not like we are loading one energy source over the other. We would much prefer a kind of a balanced diet all around. So repair, so this is your proteins. So 0.3 grams per kilogram of protein to maximally stimulate MPS in a meal. Effectively, this is the amount of protein to repair your muscles, okay? So again, it's got a little table down here. Some of you may be way less than 50 kilograms still, some of you little ones. And so this is kind of how you'd work it. This becomes more important the older you get in terms of actually weighing. If you guys just lead a healthy, balanced diet currently, you most likely are very much along these lines, okay? So again, some really good sources of quick, easy protein snacks that you can have straight after training, okay? I remember small tin, I used to have a tin of tuna after training. Probably not the nicest thing straight after. Maybe if you mix a whole load of mayonnaise in with it, but wouldn't recommend it. And rehydrate. So again, water or fluids, very important. It's not that you're just sweating out the water, you're sweating out all of these ions and all these little electrolytes that you really need in your body. I know they've got a whole load of different options, and they've got a Lucozade here. However, kind of best option, generally speaking, is water, okay? You can have any of these. Milk, again, is a great one because it has that level of protein in it as well. Your smoothies, depending on what you add, it might have your carbohydrates in. If you add your kind of your fruit, because of them natural sugars. But kind of my advice would be water is the best one for refueling. And again, body weight before minus body weight after times 1.5 is a little bit difficult, that one, because that would require weighing you before and after. But a typical amount is sort of 3 to 5 liters per day, okay? Depending on, you know, your level of training. If you're in the pool for maybe just 1.5 hours for the day, it's going to be a lot less that you need than if you're in the pool for 4 hours in that day. Okay, so eating for a competition, always drink plenty of water. Okay, we will always say this to you, have a bottle of water on you at all times. All right, you should always be walking around a competition with a bottle of water. Aim for 3 meals per day and complement with snacking. All right, don't try anything different to what you normally would do. Okay, the worst thing you can do at a competition is try and change things up, change what you eat on a day-to-day basis, because then your body's kind of, it's one more thing to shock the body and it doesn't know what it's doing, okay? If you have 3 normal meals a day, stick with your 3 normal meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then just complement it with those, you know, healthy snacks that we just went through in terms of refuel, repair, and rehydrate, okay? If there's less than 30 minutes between a race, it tend to be just to rehydrate. You don't want to be eating. By the time you've eaten it, it's going to take a minimum 45 minutes for it to kind of get through the body and you get the benefits. So 30 minutes between a race, it's more just rehydrate. There's up to an hour, a little healthy snack is advised. And if there's kind of 2 hours or more, it may be that you start fitting in your meals. So your lunch, for example. Generally speaking, that will be the lunch break at a competition. It'll be between session 1 and session 2. All right. But if, you know, you've got two events in session 1, one right at the start, one right at the end of it, and you've got maybe an hour's break, you could fit a small healthy snack in. If you're kind of back-to-back races, it will be more just kind of rehydrate. All right. And then finally, I think this last one on kind of swimming, a swimmer's shopping trolley. I'll let you kind of just go through it, but you know, you're looking at your grains for your main meals, so your rices, your pastas, things like that. Your oats and whole grain cereals for fuel and recovery. Again, cereal's a good one, but just choose which cereal you're going for. Cocoa Pops is not going to be as good as Weetabix. Cereal bars could be a good snacking choice. I know there's a lot of stigma around cereal bars, and certainly if you get the marshmallow type, I can't remember what they are, but yeah, they're not going to be as good as maybe like a Nature Valley or a Go Ahead or something like that. Fruits and veg, very important. I was going to add a whole segment on fruit and veg, but I decided to leave it out just because of how in depth it was. But effectively, you guys know that the 5 a day kind of thing, you know, fruit and veg, very important. Animal proteins. Now, if you are vegan or vegetarian, these can be replaced. You know, here, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds. Legumes are a great one. Beans, again, are a great one. You've got your soy, you've got your corn mince and corn chicken. These are all great substitutes. So if you are vegetarian or vegan, you can substitute easily. But if you do eat meat, some of the best meats, you know, are going to be the kind of the chicken, the tuna, oily fishes, fantastic kind of things. Dairy foods, and obviously, you know, breads up here. Breads are a good one. However, you want to consider how much bread you're doing in a day. Grains, you know, your pastas up here and your rices are a much better source for your carbohydrates than bread, but here is a convenient source, so it's maybe a post-training snack. Okay, so scheduling for race day. I have got the Titan timeline in a couple of slides time, but these are a few things that you will need to consider when you're kind of preparing your race day. It's not just a case of turning up in the morning and expecting the coach to tell you to when to do this, to this, to this, to this. You know, they may have 20 athletes on poolside. You've got to take a level of responsibility and ownership on race day and know what you're doing. Okay, so when it gets to, say, a nationals, we'll actually ping out the competition timeline. We'll ping out the timings of the events, and then, you know, we're more than happy to help with it, but it'll be up to you to create a timeline of when you need to be at the pool, because we won't expect you to be at the pool all day, every day at nationals. Okay. So, you know, pre-race, clear timelines for competing both earlier and later in the day. So, you know, if you're racing in the morning, or if you're not even racing in the morning, maybe you're just doing a final that day and you're racing in the evening, they're going to be two very different timelines, depending on, you know, when you wake up, when you eat, when you get down to the pool. If you do any training that day, they're going to look very different. Strategies to accelerate peak performance at the correct time. So again, this may come down to when you do like a warm-up to kind of get you ready for that race. Strategy for single and multi-race sessions. So if you're racing once in an entire session to if you're racing multiple times that session, I think we've already touched on it with nutrition. You know, what you eat through that session is going to be a little bit different, as well as maybe how you approach each session and what you're doing prior to it. Be prepared for sudden and unexpected changes to a timeline. This one is British Swimming push it quite hard. It's about being resilient in these situations. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the kids went away on a European Juniors and the bus broke down and everything kind of went haywire. They were late to the pool, and the kids kind of needed to take that under their wing and own that and be prepared to change their timelines accordingly for an unexpected occurrence. And create clear and simple timelines for effective. You know, if it's overly complicated, you're not going to understand it. Just clear, effective ones that you know you can look at it and go, right, it's this time I need to be doing this. Simple as that. All right. And then post-race, again, recovery strategies from heats to finals to maximize performance. So how long should your swim down be? When should you be eating? What you should be eating? When you need to then get back down to the pool, if you've got time to go back to your hotel, if you need to sleep, or if it's not a best option to sleep. So there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to recovery strategies from heats to finals. Consider length of time and how best to utilize it. So again, that kind of touches on what I just said. Is it best to go back and sleep, or is it best to go and walk in the open air, or is there actually not enough time? Do you just need to stay on poolside, do your recovery and kind of get yourself ready for the finals? Consider best and local food options. So this is always a good one to think about before you actually get there, is what are some really good places to eat out. So again, Nationals at Sheffield, there are some really good places to eat out. You know, there is a McDonald's, but is that going to be as good as, say, like a Prezzo, and you can get like a pasta option or something like that? So it's really good to have a consideration, maybe Google it, what are some of the best places to eat out? And reset mindset, ready for next event. So this kind of goes to that every day is day one thing. You know, every event you need to be prepared for as much as the last event. Even if you have an absolute stinker in the event before, it doesn't mean the whole weekend's going to go that way. It may be a whole host of different factors which caused a bad race. But if you prepare yourself ready for the next race, I've seen it many times before where they can have a complete flip from race 1 to race 2, and it's resetting that mind for the next event. Okay, and this is kind of our base competition timeline. So 2 hours to an hour and a half prior to the race, you arrive at the pool and you start your mobility work, your pre-pool stuff. You're all becoming experts on that now, which is good to see. 60 to 90 minutes, so an hour to hour and a half prior, you'll jump in the warm-up. Again, you have to kind of consider, is the warm-up pool the competition's warm-up, or are you going to jump in the secondary pool, if it has a secondary pool, and do a warm-up at a different scheduled time? Okay, kind of 20 minutes to an hour, race suit, activation work, pre-race briefing. So that'll be when you come over to the coach and talk to the coach. Final 20 minutes, cool room, final activation. So cool room is like when you will go up to sit on the benches, or go into the room where they hold the athletes before sending them up for the race. Within 5 minutes of race finishing, collect, snack and hydrate, debrief with coach. So super important to come over, talk about the race and how it went, and where you can improve, what went well, things like that. And then within 10 minutes, remove the race suit, swim down recovery. Okay, so again, this one could change depending, for males, removing a race suit is a lot quicker than females. So if you're doing back-to-back races, it may be that you have to take the top half down and wear kind of a training costume over the top of it. So this will alter depending on what your racing schedule looks like. Okay. So now we move into, and these ones are the same as last time in terms of your ramp, your pre-pool, your post-pool. So ramp, raise, activate, mobilize, prime, and we've got a list of stretches here. If you're unclear on any of the stretches, you can either just type it into Google or ask Amanda. She'll know every single one of these. Actually, Amanda was the one who gave me this list, so she will know everything off by heart on here. I'm not going to spend too long on it. This is effectively what you do in a warm-up, a land warm-up. It's a post-pull. This will be a list of exercises you would do after training to free up that kind of movement and that rotation in your body. Self-checks. So this is actually Chloe Golding, I believe this picture's an ex-Titan athlete. And again, these are some of the checks that you can do to see if you're struggling in any areas or deficient in any areas. So if you say do the hamstring check and you can't pull your leg up straight, with a locked out knee and get it very high, your hamstrings are tight. So this is kind of a quick list of some of the most important self checks that you'll need to do. It may be that you do these once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, depending on if you're pretty good in that area or it needs a bit of work.
Danny, sorry to butt in. No. On those self-checks as well, they've also got their sheets that they can put with that, because each of these swimmers are going to have particular target areas as well. If those sheets aren't working for them, they can always ask me for different ones as well.
Yeah, 100%. So you've all done your assessments with Amanda, and so you will have your individual sheets as well. That's a very good point. Just a quick little bit on OADF, because we kind of went through it last time, so I don't want to hang around on this one. But again, it's optimal athlete development framework. So this is how British Swimming believe what the most important attributes and characteristics for you to be successful at a high performance level. Okay, and it's broken down into those 3 categories: person, athlete, performer. So I've listed some of the most important behaviors within each category. And if you want to achieve success in swimming, you have to have the characteristics to match. Jack Burnell, who's on the British team, did a talk for some of our athletes a few years ago in Mallorca, and he put it really simply in terms of the scales. You can't reach this level if your characteristics, your behaviours, your kind of training ethics down here. If you want to reach this level, you have to match it, or even go above and beyond. You're never going to reach that high goal if everything falls below the wayside. And then just finally, the last 2 is kind of on our training. So heart rate's a very important one to start understanding. We always talk about these energy zones, and we all 3 coaches will use these energy zones in training, and it says it here: every energy zone is important and needed in swimming. Just training in one zone is not going to make a great athlete. You need to have a good base in all of them. Now, if you're a sprint athlete, your zone 4 or 5 might need to be better. If you're an endurance athlete, your kind of 1, 2 zones will need to be better. Okay, but you do need all the zones. Okay. So I kind of want to run through this really quick so you can start understanding if the coach puts A1, A2, A3 on the board or something like that, understanding what does that mean? What does the coach want me to do? Okay, so zone 1 splits into A1 and A2. A1 is like the slowest of the slow. It's your aerobic low intensity. This tends to be where you will use your recovery work. It will be where you do a lot of your skills and technical changes. And here, heart rate 50 beats below maximum. So if your heart rate maximum's around 200, it's going to vary around there between 190 and sort of 220 will be almost encompass every single one of you. There may be some outliers, but 200's a pretty good guess, for example, or pretty good average. 50 beats below would be 150. It's probably not actually as slow as some of you think it is. Okay, so when I write A1 on the board and some of you plod in the water very, very slowly, you're not actually even in A1. You might be below that. So A1 is slow, but it's not maybe as slow as some of you think it is. A2 is 40 to 50 beats below, and this is aerobic maintenance. So again, this will be used in, again, skill and kind of technique and efficiency training. It'll also be a really good one to do if, for example, you're at kind of the back end of a season and you've kind of got your aerobic capacity there, and you're working on your anaerobic stuff, which is your fast stuff, to get ready for that race. So you'll need this section here to just maintain, because you can't keep building your aerobic and your anaerobic at the same time. You're gonna kill yourself off, and so you maybe need to just maintain your aerobic to work your speed stuff. Okay, now this is probably my favorite zone, as a lot of my swimmers will know, A3 and threshold, okay, into zone 2. So this will be aerobic development. So if we want to improve your aerobic capacity, this is like what you would need if you're a 1500 swimmer. An open water swimmer is a big aerobic capacity. And then into anaerobic threshold, this area is kind of bread and butter. A very important zone, heart rate 30, 40 beats below, and then into 20, 30 beats below maximum for the threshold. Okay. This kind of works out at around 100 PB plus 8 to 12 seconds. Okay, maybe a little bit slower, maybe a little bit quicker, depending on how this zone has been trained. Okay, when we come back from this lockdown, our anaerobic threshold is going to be a lot lower. So it may, PB plus 8 to 12 is not going to work. It may be PB plus 20 is threshold, and you may be swimming along thinking, God, my times are slow, I'm not swimming very fast, but you're working the correct energy zone. And if you do that and you work the right zones at the right times, you will get back and you will get fit again, and you'll be swimming fast in no time at all. Zone 3, your aerobic overload. This is your VO2. This is heart rate 10 to 20 below. So this is effectively some pretty fast swimming. Okay. This is the killer. No one likes aerobic overload. No one likes VO2 work. It's hard work. It's like it's max work, but over a period of time. Okay. Zone 4, so we're getting into some really fast work now. So lactate production, lactate tolerance, LP or LT, we might write it as, but effectively lactate production is LP. So that is producing the maximum lactate. It's only going to work so well with little ones because of how much lactate they can produce. With a senior sprint male, they're obviously going to produce a lot more lactate, so it's easier to get them into that zone. But effectively, it'll be training to push the body to produce as much lactate as possible. And then lactate tolerance, as you can kind of understand, it's tolerating that lactate, so it's pushing that body to produce it at the maximum level and then hold it and keep holding that lactate at kind of that peak point that's really going to burn the muscles out. This tends to be more speed-based work, maybe like 450s race pace -2, for example. So this is some fast. I mean, like I said, heart rate 0 to 10 beats below. So effectively, you are sprinting this. And then finally, zone 5, which is speed, HVOs, high velocity overloads. This is like 20 meters max with fins, 15 seconds vertical kick with a med ball. You're really, really high intense work in the pool. You don't need to do massive amounts of this. Doing relays is a great way of doing this one. Okay. And also here, if the relays maybe 50s and not 25s, this is a great way to work it. But a lot of the training will be done in these areas, and you'll need less training in these areas right now. As you get older, it will start kind of moving along, and you may need more over here and less over here. But it's very much dependent on your event that you specialize in. Male to females are also slightly different. But in general, you need every zone. And if you're ever confused about, right, coach wrote 31s, A3 on the board, what does that actually mean? Right, well, A3, 30 to 40 beats below maximum. Okay. And we do have heart rate monitors. We can whack them on you, and you will start understanding what speed kind of equates to what heart rate, and you get better at just figuring out your own body and knowing what heart rate is what speed. And then finally, last slide is the Abanchek training model. So this training model is implemented by Neptune and Poseidon. However, Trident and Atlantis, you will kind of need to start understanding this, as you make your way through the program. This will be something we adopt. Poseidon did a little bit previous to lockdown to test it. But effectively, there will be a series of tests done at the beginning of maybe each month, each cycle, each kind of part mesocycle, whatever it is. There will be tests done, and these tests will determine what speed you need to be training in at what energy system. So, just to spit some numbers out, if you're saying a minute 100 freestyle, it may be that this is kind of this speed you need to be going 120, and then it's a 116, 112, 18, whatever it is. Okay, these numbers are arbitrary. They're not going to be correct, but it will follow a similar kind of pathway to this one here, the heart rate. but it will be tests done at the start of whenever, and then these tests will produce a set of times that you need to swim, or a pace that you need to swim to work at this energy zone. Okay, and the colors are slightly different: white, pink, red, blue, purple, green. So it will be, the coach might put on the board, right, I want 3 200s at red, 2 1s at purple, 3 200s at red, 2 75s at green, or whatever it is. And so once these tests have been done, you have these times, this kind of pace sheet, you'll be able to just quickly look at the time that you need to swim and then swim it. Okay, this is all just to kind of help make things a little bit easier for you, and streamline the process. All right, because it's important. Yes, obviously we know the energy zones, but it's important that you guys know these energy zones as well. All right, so that's everything for today. Like I said, I didn't want to keep you waiting around forever this morning. You know, it's a Saturday. But if you have any questions on it, just drop it in the chat box now, or just contact your squad coach. You know, it's as simple as that. You know, we may be on lockdown, but it doesn't mean you can't get in contact with us and ask us any of these questions. So yeah, that's everything, guys. I hope it wasn't too boring. Let me stop sharing. And so yeah, I'll finish there, guys. Hope you have a good weekend. Amanda and Emily, happy birthday. And I'll let you go there, guys. Thank you very much.
All right.